So I saw the law and there's
Board ready?
where that would be in that area.
You guys ready?
Yep.
Sure. We're ready.
I heard that. I've heard that. Call this meeting to order. If you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all for coming to our November regularly scheduled meeting. At this point, move on to approving the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so moved. Number 4, the consent agenda consisting of minutes of regular meeting of October 14th, 2019, personal report, district financials, Hythe Elementary proposed logo.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. Moving right along, our number 5 is reports. At this time, I'd like to invite Dan Coleman from Quest CPA up to review our 2018-2019 annual audit.
This is a good spot for me?
Please, thank you.
All right. So my name is Dan Coleman, I'm a partner at Quest CPAs. I have an office located up in Payette. And I did the audit for the school district this last year, so I'll present that to you tonight. Everybody has the financial statements I see. 42 pages, 43 pages here. There's a lot of financial information. I will just kind of summarize and hit the major points. And then if you guys have something you'd like to discuss further, we can go into that. Audit went well. At the beginning of the audit process, we send out a shopping list to Cheryl. It's got about 30 items on it, 40 items. She gets busy working on those items to compile them, get them ready for us when we come out to do the audit. So we sample transactions, receipts. We take a look at compliance items, making sure that we're complying with federal and state laws. Everything checked out like it should as I went through my procedures. Nothing negative to report to the board tonight on anything that I did as I came out to the school. Again, we appreciate Cheryl and all her hard work getting things ready to go. There are 3 reports I'll mention briefly. Pages 1 through 3 are the auditor's report. That's where we express our opinion. The school is receiving an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that I could give. It means that the financial information is accurate and that the board can rely on it to make decisions. So good job there. Pages 39 and 40 is the second report I'll mention. The report on internal controls and finance. So like I said, when we come out to the school, we take a look at internal controls to make sure we have some in place to protect the assets of the school district. One of the largest ones that we've talked about the last few years is a bank statement review. We'd like somebody other than the bookkeeper or the director of finance to review the bank statement once a month and then sign off on that. As I was going through the information, I think at this point, we're doing that at the district level as well as all of the building levels, which is great. And we'll focus on that in the next couple of years just to make sure that we have that review process going on. But that's the kind of stuff that I look at when I come out and take a look at internal controls. So on that report there, pages 39 through 40, everything checked out like it should, so we're okay there. Third report I'll mention is on pages 41 and 42. If a school district spends over $750,000 of federal money, it requires additional work on my part. It used to be called the federal single audit. but we get into those federal funds to make sure that they are accurate as well. So as I went through those federal funds, everything checked out there like it should, also nothing negative to report. Page 9 is the best place to look at the finances. What you're looking at on page 9 is an income statement. Basically, it's the revenues and expenses, and then it reconciles to a fund balance at the very bottom there. A couple things to keep in mind. This is as of June 30, 2019, right? So we're 4 months down the road now. So things have changed. School finance is broken down in between major funds and non-major funds. Major funds have a lot of money flowing through them. They're required to be farther up in the audit report. That's what we're looking at on page 9 are the school's major funds. There are 4 of those. We'll go through each of these funds briefly. I'll let you know the results and then make any recommendations that I have as I came across them. First column you're looking at is the general fund. You look at the third number from the bottom, the net change in fund balance was $297,503. That's in parentheses, and so we had a loss this last year in the general fund of $297,503. Very bottom number is the ending fund balance. That represents the carryovers from prior years. $1,203,831 is where the general fund ended as of June 30, 2019. Everybody with me there? We recommend a month and a half to 3 months as an ending fund balance in that general fund. That leaves you guys with about a half a month of reserve there. I was able to look at the audit report last year. This, of course, is my first year looking at the school's finances. Last year in the general fund, we had a loss of about $200,000. This year, it's about $300,000 loss. So that's a trend that I really want to watch in the future to see if we can kind of change that a little bit if we can. Look at that bottom number, $1,203,000. Seems like a lot of money to people, but at the school district, we spend over $2 million a month. And so in addition to that, if you're familiar with how the federal funds work, we pay cash up front for those federal expenditures, and then we get reimbursed for them later on. So lots of times we use that general fund balance to pay those bills in the federal funds until we get reimbursed for them. Also, in addition to that, state funding comes out every month and a half to 3 months, right? So it's nice to have a little cash on hand to pay the bills until we're waiting for that next state payment to come out. As of June 30, I think the next payment we get is, Cheryl can help me out with this, month and a half away, I think,
Yeah.
August 15th. And then some of those other payments, there's 3 months in between those payments as they come out from the state. So we recommend that we have a little fund balance there to carry us through those months where we're not bringing any money in.
I just have a question. When you looked at, last year, you said we had a negative as well as this year.
Yeah.
Were you any identifying trends that you saw, like reoccurring costs, or were they one-time
Yeah, I
costs
think that
that?
the issue that I came across is I looked at the budget, and we budget to spend more in the general fund than we bring in. And so I would say start there, look at the budget, make sure that when you're budgeting, if your expenses exceed your revenues, it better be because you want to spend that fund balance down. Otherwise, you're going to continue to spend it down until it's gone. So I would say start there, and Cheryl, she's really, really good at what she does, and we visited about this, and she saw the same things that I have seen. So I would start with the budget.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
can show you that if you want to look at it. I don't know if you're interested or not, but that's big picture of what's going on.
Okay, well, I'm sure I can meet with Cheryl too, and we can go over some of that.
Second column over, child nutrition fund, third number from the bottom. We have an increase in the child nutrition fund, $26,159. Very bottom number, $106,829. That's in parentheses as well, so our child nutrition fund is in the negative at this point in time. I think we've had profit for carryovers for the last couple of years, so we are trying to restore that fund balance to zero or make it positive. Couple of things I'll just mention, child nutrition, the state likes us to see us do good in the child nutrition fund, but not too well. They have a 3-month max that they like to see. So if you build up too large of a fund balance, the state will ask you to spend it down. That's not our issue right now. We have a negative fund balance. So from my experience, I normally would see the child nutrition fund balance out over the long term. So you may have a couple of lost years, but then you should have a couple of carryover years to where that fund at least zeroes out. In most cases, if it carries a negative fund balance, we do transfer from the general fund to zero it out. I have a few smaller schools, they budget in a transfer every year to zero it out because they just don't have enough to make that fund work. For you guys, I think we'll watch it for the next few years. You can get with Cheryl on that and visit about it. I don't recommend that you transfer to zero it out at this point, unless Cheryl thinks that's a good idea. If over the next few years we have some carryovers there, I think it will restore that fund balance to positive, and I think we'll be in good shape there. Third column over is the bond fund. Very bottom number there, $5,951,208. Ending fund balance in the bond fund. Just to keep this fund really simple, I like to see that ending fund balance have enough in it to pay next year's debt payments. Our fiscal year 20 debt payments are $3,872,000. So we have a healthy bond fund ending fund balance, which makes me happy. That general fund balance is so low though, I worry that at some point we probably will borrow cash from the bond fund to pay the general fund expenditures if we don't build that up a little bit. So nice to have the cash there, but probably not the best idea to do so. Fourth column over. No, you're okay. Any questions or? Okay. Fourth column over, capital construction fund. We have the sale of property. You see the revenues coming in there at the top there, $618,000. And then if you look at 2/3 of the way down the page, you see proceeds from bond issuance, $1,021,703. Everybody see that? That's the 2019 bond that we issued. That's showing the money coming in. We spent down about $600,000 of that this last fiscal year. Very bottom number there, ending fund balance, $1,043,000. I assume that will be spent down by the next time we come out to do the audit, which would be the normal procedure there. So as bond money comes in, it goes into the capital construction fund by state code, and then it gets spent down there. So those are the school's major funds. There's a lot of non-major funds that are farther back in the audit report. A lot of them are federal funds, and so they zero out by the end of the year. Not a whole lot of detail to discuss there. We like to say that they're behaving like they should. So we won't go into great detail there. As far as recommendations go, I've mentioned a few of those as I presented the numbers. There are some big accounting changes coming up. The GASB, which is the Government Accounting Standards Board, a bunch of people back east where the students make the rules of what goes into the financial statements. They issue standards every year that we have to keep track of. I'll discuss these in greater detail with Cheryl because she'll deal with the accounting of it. I'll mention it to the board tonight just so that you're aware of it. GASB 84 has to do with fiduciary funds. So the school does manage money for the students that the students fundraise for. They want additional disclosures in the financial statements starting fiscal year 2020 and beyond. So as we come out to do the audit, we'll have to ask for more detail. The school actually has already given me the detail I need to add to the financial statements, so we're in good shape there. It used to be we just reported the cash balance and the due to student groups. Now the GASB wants to see the revenue and expense side of that picture as well. So we'll add that to the financial statements next year. And then GASB 87 has to do with lease accounting. If we have any leases for equipment, anything, buildings, anything like that, they want more disclosures in the financial statements for that, starting fiscal year 2021. So it's a couple of years down the road. Again, most of the accounting changes and the bulk of that stuff, I'll just visit with Cheryl about, and we'll make sure it's coming. It's showing up in the financial statements like it should.
And you say that's the start of 2020?
The fiduciary funds, GASB 84, is fiscal year 2020. So the year we're in now, actually, it needs to show up in the financial statements for the current year.
Okay.
Leases are those changes are 2 years down the road.
Okay.
That's all I have for you tonight. If there's anything else you'd like to discuss, we can. Cheryl's a great resource if you want to kind of take this home and look at it. And if you've got questions later on, feel free to call me or ask Cheryl those questions, you know. Yeah.
So thanks, Dan. So you said, if we look at red flags, that would be our reserves.
In the general fund.
And you said on the smaller student accounts, you have the detail that we're gonna need. Do those look okay? I mean, the small student accounts, I know they're the smaller revenues, but it seems like they're the kind of funds that have tripped schools up or got the public attention. Do we look okay there?
We do. There have been a few experiences over the last few years, right, where those student funds have got some people into trouble, for sure. So you're tracking that a little bit, I see. Yeah, so the bank statement review is one big control that we've implemented over the last few years to control some of those issues that we've seen with the student funds. They are tracking fine. A lot of them were consistent with where they were last year, which, I mean, they don't always have to be consistent. I think there was one of them that we saw that had spent down a lot this last year. I talked to Cheryl about it. She followed up with that. But yeah, things look okay in your student funds. I think as long as we have somebody reviewing that bank statement and signing off on it, and then we'll watch it from year to year as we do the audit, yeah, I think we'll be okay.
So if we were a private company, does our financial health, do we look okay? I mean, we're short on reserves, which is, I think, a red flag. But other than that, if we were a private company, is there any highlights that we should be, kind of not school board looking at it, but if we were a private company, is there a?
Yeah, your question is interesting for me. When I come out to present financials for school districts, showing profits is not it's not what we're trying to do. If you're a for-profit business, you're trying to show profit, right? Trying to control the expenses, increase the revenues, and have, carryover, because the owners get to take that home and spend it. School districts are very different to where, because we levy taxes, we really don't want huge fund balances, right? Because that's taking property taxes and then not using it. In your general fund, yeah, I would like to see that come up a bit, for sure. For school districts, really, there's not a whole lot that you can control other than the expenditures. I mean, revenues are pretty much set for us. The state legislature decides a lot of that, how much money that they're going to send out to school districts. So the most control that the board can have, that the administration can have for the school district, is to look at the budget, set a realistic budget, and just make sure we're sticking to it, because expenditures really are where you can, make the biggest difference. So, but we're not looking for huge carryovers because we're not for profit, and things look good. Yeah, things look okay.
As we, our current levy is about ready to expire, and we're considering looking for rerunning that.
Yeah.
Is that deemed necessary in your analysis of our budget?
I'm glad you asked the question. That was something I had thought about, I hadn't brought up. Your bond fund to me looks like it's healthy. Cheryl maybe could talk to your bond advisor to see, okay, what are the future payments? What really do we need to have in that fund balance? Maybe you guys could run a supplemental levy, and at the same time, maybe you could decrease the levy rate in your bond fund. And overall, the taxpayers are not paying more out of their pocket for taxes, but you're just moving that money around. You're building up your general fund balance, which we need to do, and you're not, building up your bond fund, which I think is pretty healthy at this point. I would have Cheryl discuss that with your bond advisors to see if that's logical, and I think that's a really good idea.
Can you clarify? So I'm recalling we have a reserve of, I think, 5% in policy. Is that what our reserve? Am I making that number up? Does anyone know what our policy says about how much our reserve is? Is that our bond reserve that they're talking about, or is that our cash that we have to have on hand?
That would be the general fund.
Yeah.
So right now, we're not meeting what we have set for our, as stated. Okay.
What is the customary amount for all the schools that you audit? What would you see the general?
Yeah.
I mean, is it your recommendations, most of them adhere to that, or is there variance or?
So the recommendation is just good financial policy, like state payments come out every month and a half to 3 months, so we'd like to see a little fund balance there for that. And then the federal funds we pay out of pocket and then get reimbursed. That's more where my recommendation comes from than anything. So our audit firm audits over 60 schools in the state of Idaho. We compile at the end of our audit season the information, the financial information. Last year in the general fund, most schools, I think the average for the ending general fund balance was 2.2 months.
And you say we're at a half a month right now?
Yeah, you're about, 0.6 a month, a half a month. Yeah, so for you, a month and a half is about over 3 million, which again, seems like a lot of money, but in that general fund, we're spending over 2 million a month. It goes pretty quick.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Appreciate
Thank you very much
your-
for coming out.
Big time.
Appreciate your efforts and helping us correct this.
You bet. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next report, item 5B, our superintendent report by Dr. Rebrand.
All right, thank you. So to start the night, I really just want to say thank you to all veterans, if there's any veterans out there. The assemblies that we had at the schools today were wonderful. I'm going to tear up just thinking about the ones that I saw today because there really was a lot of honor and everything at each one of the schools today. So thank you to the principals who are here for making that happen out there. And thank you to any of the veterans out here tonight. And again, a short report for you all, but we did travel to the ISBA conference this past week. It was a great time of learning and listening, and I think each of us brought away some different takeaways and learnings. I know that I learned some things that I need to be doing a little differently. The biggest part for me was that we reviewed again the governor's task force recommendations, and so we need to really be paying close attention to those as a district. The 5 recommendations coming out of there are more focused on K-3 literacy. They're looking at all-day kindergarten and greater opportunities for that. The recommendation is also to build out and update the career ladder so that it's not just at the lower rungs, but we're getting up to the higher rungs as well. Addressing social and emotional issues to support social learning. And then again, strategic alignment and increased flexibility for the K-12 funding formula. So I believe we'll hear about the funding formula again this year. So what we do now is the governor's reviewing the 5 recommendations, and then he will decide if he's taking them all forward, a portion of them, how that looks. So we'll just have to pay attention to that in the future. And then the other piece that we had our district leadership team. We had our first meeting back at the end of October, and I think that was a great time. We spent quite a bit of time having the schools all share out positives, and it just highlighted again all of the great work that's happening throughout the district, through the buildings, everywhere. It just reiterated that positive atmosphere. We took time to review the strategic plan aligned with the continuous improvement plan, and then taking a look at the accreditation work because we hadn't had an opportunity with that team yet to go over the accreditation, even though they all have their plaques and everything, or their certificates. And so that was really good. We took time to look at data from each of the schools and talk about school improvement and where the districts are and what that looks like going forward. And then finally, we did some reflection on the professional development that's been happening and some of the professional development that we'll be doing going forward because we do survey the teachers and staff as to what they need. It was just really a great day of learning together. And I did get some emails from people that attended afterwards that they really appreciated the day and the time. So.
Thanks, Sean.
Questions? All right. Next report, school report from Purple Sage Elementary, Principal Mark Hopkins.
Are you healthy now?
I am. Finally. Took a while. Thanks for having me back and for allowing Leanne to go on without me. I just have a couple of slides on something that I've been concentrating on, particularly this year. A little history on this. So this is my 4th year, and each year here, the number of students who have experienced a considerable amount of trauma, and that leads to some significant behaviors. It's a pretty good roadblock to their learning and others' learning. So that's kind of increased as I've been here. And so this year, we had the opportunity to visit with a principal from Kootenai Elementary in Ponderay, Idaho. Her name's Kelly Knowles, and she has a school that is similar to purple sage. And the fact that what I found is we have a huge geographical area, and the variety of housing for our school is very, very diverse. So you have estates all the way to, there's a number of homeless students, and everything in between. I'll have students that will leave, come back throughout the same school year. So obviously, those experiences for those kids can be pretty tough. So when they come to school, sitting in class is really not a top priority for them. So she shared her experiences, and it really, it spoke to me because we experienced some similar things. So I met with her following the presentation about trauma, and then I actually drove up to visit her school because I'm a visual learner. I needed to see exactly what she was doing. Was it what I thought it was? And it was, and it's very much dependent on the relationship that she has with her students, which is what I've established at Purple Sage as well. So I just thought I would talk a little bit about the social emotional education that we are working on here. So keeping students in the classrooms and not in the office. So I can accomplish some of the same things in the classroom or the hallway next to the classroom that I can accomplish by them walking down to my office. And it's all about building relationships. Improving the learning environment for all students. So to be honest, last year we had one particular classroom that had a number of behaviors, and we actually lost students because of it, and I did not like that. So I wanted to know how can my staff help with this? So the other thing is we had a lot of good support for a student full of students. So when they would have a moment, a lot of staff would respond. And after I analyzed it over the summer, I realized we didn't all need to respond. There are some things we could have done to prevent it from even getting to that point. And then students recognize when they're ready for a reset. When do they need a break? If we can get them to know when they're going to flip their lid, and I'll explain that a little bit, then we can prevent a major meltdown. And then we want them to have the tools to move forward, because we know when they leave school and they go home, they can have a pretty rough night every single night. But when they come to school, we know this is a safe place. You can learn, and here's how you can learn. And then I want them to tell me, what do you need to learn? So I will play a little video that all the students and staff watched after that Kelly Knowles presentation at my school. Let's see here. Pull it up.
When you come to school, what is your job? Did you answer to learn? That's right, because your job is to come to school and to learn. And in order to learn, we have to be in the healthy parts of our brain. This is the camera of the brain that was developed by Dan Siegel. Essentially, you have your downstairs brain, your thumb folds over, and this is called the amygdala. It's the part of the brain that processes emotions and feelings. And then the top part of your brain, the upstairs brain, folds over the amygdala, and then this is your brain. This is the upstairs brain. This is the part of our brain that we want to be in when we come to school. This means I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to be the best thing that can be. Some of us call this the green or the green zone. Learn, ready, or upstairs brain. Sometimes we come to school and we're not as focused as we want to be. Maybe we're a little tired. Maybe we're a little worried about something, and we're just not quite in our upstairs brain. We're a little bit outside of it. This is the yellow zone. Now, this is our downstairs brain. This is red. This is not where we want to be when we come to school. And sometimes we get red when we get really upset about something, and we move to our downstairs brain, and we don't learn very well. Now, if we think of some feelings, for example, think of the feeling silly. When you are a little silly, we do that amygdala. This is you being a little silly. Your upstairs brain is attached to your whole brain. Now think of a time when you've gotten really, really silly. Maybe someone told a really funny joke and you were a little tired and you started to get really silly. Wiggle that thumb a lot. it's really hard to keep your upstairs brain over that amygdala. So when we get really silly, we do a thing called flipping our lids. So now you are cut off from your upstairs brain and your downstairs brain is in charge. What I'm trying to do, and the other brain leaders in your school are trying to do, is to give you tools to stay in your upstairs brain or get back to your upstairs brain quickly as possible. Now, there are 8 things that your brain needs in order to be healthy and at its best.
We need to sleep, we need to eat healthy, we need to drink water, we need to get exercise, we need to take deep breaths when we're really worked up, we need to be part of a team, we need to challenge our brains, we need to learn to be.
Water is a great thing for our brains. It helps us stay healthy. And one of the
It kind of gives you a general idea, but the term flip your lid has been pretty important to us. And I'll have students who last year maybe would be flipping desks, throwing papers, books, and now they can identify when they're going to get to that point. You'll see them wiggle their fingers. So I'll just walk in and they'll look at me like this, and I'm like, oh, I better get in there. So you go in, you kneel next to them, sit next to them, check on them, see how they're doing. Try to keep them in the classroom. If they're almost to the lid flip, you can take them out for a little bit, and then we ask, what do you need? How can we help you learn? It could be water. Most of the time, my top 2 are food and sleep. So we get them food, and we give them a nap. Naps I'm a big fan of naps. I would love to take one every day, but I can't. But students that need one, they may not have slept the night before. They may have been woken up by a parent at an odd hour. They may have had to get up because mom and dad work at 4:30 or 5. Give them a nap. It can take a half an hour. Sometimes it can take longer, but when they're done, they can learn again. So it does them no good to flip their lid, lose time, be sent home, any of that. It's not as effective. So the biggest thing is to allow them to tell you what they did. So instead of saying, what did you do? Like we typically do as parents, right? What did you just do? What happened? And they kind of look around. Oh, I think I flipped my lid. There's papers everywhere. How can we fix that? I can pick the papers up. I broke my friend's pencil. How can you fix that? I can get him a new one, right? So then we help them. We can work at the school, pick up trash, whatever, to help them feel like they have solved that problem for themselves. Because again, it's not just about school. When they go home, they're going to have the same problem. They need to have the tools to solve that. And this isn't new. This is used in a lot of places, but I found it spoke to what we needed at Purple Sage, and I'm happy to say that it is working. Our incidents are way down, and having the full-time assistant principal has allowed me to be the one with that relationship to go in and say, hey, how are we doing, buddy? And they'll look right at me and just tell me, flip it. Okay, let's get it back. I'll have staff. So, hello, Mr. Hopkins. That's fine, I can help them in the same way. And I think the last 2 things, helping the staff realize it's not a matter of their personal pride. It's not their fault that the kid did that. I'm not gonna walk in and say, oh, what did you just let happen? I understand and recognize the students that they have, and I know that it's the student, and it's the situation the student's facing, so I'm not judging the teacher. So that, I think, takes their stress level down, knowing they don't have to solve it, they can get help. And maybe they're having a rough day with that student, they know they're gonna flip that kid's lid, they can just call and say, I need a break, tap out. So we do that all the time as a staff. Tap out, walk away before we get to the red zone and the downstairs brain. And I think another benefit of this is the students, not only the students that are having the issue are recognizing it, the students around them are understanding how to identify when that student's about to go. And either maybe they need to walk away or they can say, how are you doing? And just that recognition can get that student back down and prevent them from flipping their lid. So, it comes in waves. I know we'll see more, but I feel like we have the tools now, and I feel like the staff has the buy-in because they're seeing the results. So I just wanted to give you guys that positive report, but I think we've turned a bit of a corner for now. And do you guys have any questions about the video or any of these efforts that we've got?
So what do you think the percentages of students that can self-diagnose, that can feel that I'm putting my lid? And then the second would be like, it sounds like you're managing it on a day-to-day basis. What can we do as a community to fill in these other gaps? I mean, you're kind of on the front lines, and we might think this happens in Boise or someplace other than Middleton, but it's obviously you're living it. So I guess two things. What's the percentage of kids you think that can self-regulate now or see it? And then do you have ideas for the community?
I think to the first question, I'd say the majority of them have that ability with adult guidance. I really do. I think we've narrowed it down to those very few students who do not have that ability. And there are a lot of other things going on with them that we're able to say, okay, we've kind of cleared away these possibilities. Now here's something where maybe some other professionals can help us with that. And then as far as what we need for the community, that's a big, big question. I don't know yet. And that's kind of something I'd like to look at. I don't know if you've watched, I think there was an article a couple of months ago from Oregon where teachers were kind of up in arms about this exact same situation where classrooms are constantly being trashed. And I didn't see an answer in that article. So I think just patience. I think when a family needs a resource, our community has been pretty good at getting it, and through Teresa Brown especially. I think maybe just education. I think just having these type, maybe some sort of evening session for parents, because parents are seeing this at home. They're not sure what to do either. I have a lot of parents that say, I don't know, my child just trashed the room 3 times in a row and I don't know what to do. So maybe parent education is something we could do.
Did you, how did you get this out to your staff? Did you guys is it part of Safe Schools? Did you through professional development or?
I sent this clip out, it's a video, and then a staff meeting, I just spoke to them kind of as a little review, because it was just on the heels of having a presentation on trauma from Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah. And they knew that we needed it, so they could see I was passionate, so whether they liked it or not, they wanted it.
Mark, have you sat down with the other principals, displayed this, and where do you see, do they have some of those same similarities of?
Yeah, I just had a phone call, was this week or the end of last week with another principal who had a student exhibiting the exact same behaviors that I've experienced in the last 4 years. And we were able to walk through and use a lot of these vocabulary terms, and she understood. And so that was pretty helpful.
Awesome. To collaborate with the other elementaries to maybe get on the same.
Yeah.
Because I think they lessen as they get older, but different ways that maybe the middle school can, you know what I mean? Everybody can benefit from.
Yeah, it was a great foundation for us this fall when we had our back to school days, and everybody and all the teachers heard from Kelly as well. So they you could see the light bulb going off. Because really, when you're sitting in the classroom, you think you should be able to fix it all. And when you're a principal, you think you should be able to fix the whole building, but you can't. So just knowing that you need help, I think helps.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Next report is from Middleton Academy, Mr. Glenn Croft, principal.
Right, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Excited to be able to talk about some things we have going on with the Academy. As you can see, and this I assume was brought up in the last board meeting, is we did a new logo, we changed our colors, and we combined our mascot together with the high school. One of the issues in talking to students and staff members is that we have students that play sports that are at the academy, and they participate in after-school activities. And we have a separate mascot and kind of we're on an island a little bit back there. We're a little hard to find for people. They drive around the middle school and then they eventually find us back there. But we wanted to kind of come off the island and join in the Viking community and have our students feel that are attending, they're part of, and they're not a segregated group in the community. So part of that, just some more symbolic side is combining our logo and our mascot and those things to be at one with the high school. And so that's where our Middleton Academy logo comes in.
I wanted to give you cheers on that, Glenn. I think that is awesome. I love that. That brings definite camaraderie for all schools.
I think it's been really positive.
It's awesome.
The students, it's a small community. If you're in West Ada and there's 5 or 6 high schools, or Boise, it's different when you're in a smaller community. You grow up rooting for Vikings, and so we wanted to be part of that community.
Sorry.
We started out with 45 students. We now have 110. As of today, we had a couple more enrolled. 110 students, and that is record setting for us. Record before the school year was at 82. I looked it up. It was 82 3 years ago. So that is a huge number, and we're happy that we can, what we provide, that we can service this community and the schools by providing the service to get more students to graduation. We also, with that, the challenges of growth, anytime you're more than doubling your enrollment, you're going to deal with where are my teachers to teach all these classes, and trying to keep your class. Part of the hallmark of an academy is smaller classes, more help in subjects with struggling students. So how do we keep all that and then grow? We have added some staff, but one thing we found that we could, it was essentially the same as adding a whole other staff members, just to not have prep hours throughout the day, which take a teacher out when you're scheduling. And so from a financial point of view, brainstorming with Dr. Reberry and the directors, looking at that and saying, hey, if we started a little bit later, which there's research that says that's good for teenagers anyways, if we started a little bit later, we would be able to have a common prep in the morning with all of our teachers. And then throughout the day, when we're scheduling, there is no prep hours during the day. So it essentially is, to me, it's like hiring a whole nother teacher. And there's that physical side to that as well. But that has enabled us to be able to keep classes under 20 students and still have phenomenal growth. And I think it's been positive too. Our tardies haven't been more. I wouldn't say that I'm super happy with our tardies in general, but I haven't seen those things get worse as we've increased that time. We've also added a lot more structure. As part of being in the Idaho Mastery Network, we had a schedule that was kind of a daily select your schedule. We had some hallmarks of the program that were kind of out on the fringes, testing education, seeing with Mastery if we could have students not be in a traditional class, but be able to daily kind of select and go at their own pace. Some issues we have with that. And I'll get into this in a couple more slides, but there has been several issues, and that was that without a defined bell schedule, students often just gravitated towards the classes and the teachers they liked the most. So the most popular staff with some of the classes they liked the most, they would gravitate towards. And so looking at our past data for the last 3 years, we said, hey, we need to make some changes, add some more structure, have accountability where you need to be at a certain place at a certain time, and still trying to keep that mastery flexibility. So trying to marry all those ideas and kind of Venn diagram has been our labor of love this year. But increased accountability, expectations for our students. To be in class, you have to participate. That's we have 3 hills to die on. One is no cell phones in the classroom. The next one is participation. You have to be working. You can't come in and put your head down, tune out, and say goodbye. You have to be working on what we're working on, or you need to be out of class in another place. So having the class where you walk in that expectation has enabled us to have students progress towards graduation at a higher rate this year so far. We also added a safe school assistant. We are a behavior program. At the heart of there's several things we provide as an at-risk school, but one of those and one of the qualifications to come to an at-risk school in Idaho is there's the emotional disturbed side, but there's also, we have students on IEPs who are emotionally disturbed, but there's also students, as Mark was talking about, that flip their lids in a traditional school setting. So being a smaller environment, smaller classes with more help and building relationships in a different way with their students, we're always kind of fighting that flip lid. And I'm glad I explained that because that really is the language we use too at our school. But having a safe school assistant in a cool down room, it's not about being punitive, it's about changing behavior. There isn't a punishment side to it, there's a consequence side. And so when we have students that have, for various reasons, it could just be academic frustration, it could be behaviors. When they do, we have them go and cool down, they do a behavior reflection. After they finish that reflection, we don't have a certain amount of time they have to stay in that room. We wait for their lid to come back down. We wait for their, go back into their upstairs brain. We go through that process with our students until they're able to come back in their classroom. Having a safe school assistant that we purchase with our Title I money enables there to be a person that's always responding in that room to those needs. I can't be a principal and stay in that room all day. I would do nothing else. There would be nothing else I could do. And one of the things that, when we're looking at trauma-informed practices, especially with the population we have, this is just a quote that talks about that having explicit teaching strategies, modeling positive behavior, building positive relationships among students and adults. Students need concrete, positively stated guidelines on how to conduct themselves in a variety of situations. So one of the hallmarks of a behavior program is consistency. When you come into my class or any other teacher's class, you know what your expectations are in the first 5 minutes, in the last 5 minutes of class, and throughout class. You know what your expectations are in the hallway. And the more we define these, the more our behavior improves, because people know what that expectation is. When those boundaries start to get a little sloppy, behavior starts going down with that. And we watch these patterns in our schools. So my goal is to always create a very consistent environment for the students. We've taken a different approach, as I've been talking about with mastery education. We were selected as an action research school for this year, and so as we were selected, we received $36,412 as a grant award, and we're using that money as professional development to help do trauma-informed classroom practices with our teachers. The lion's share of that money went to hire 2 extra paraprofessionals that their sole job is to find pockets of students that are struggling and not making progress in the class, and either push into the classroom to help them in small groups, or pull out and have a group of 4 or 5 students that they're working with to help them get through that material. It's basically an elementary model, tier 2 intervention where you have your educational aides in support helping small groups of students. So we have enacted that this year as well. Just quick, I won't read this whole slide. If I put too much on the slide, you're not supposed to do that, right? But action research, bringing the direct instruction with mastery. One of our goals of being an action research school is we said, hey, is mastery a system or is it an educational strategy? Because a lot of what's happening in Idaho right now is a system of mastery. And I said, well, I believe we can be a mastery education school and have a bell schedule and have consistent expectations from class and have some of these things that have become kind of gone to the wayside with the system of mastery. So talking with the director of the program and working in conjunction with several of the IMIN people, they had me present at the last conference, and this was basically what I presented on and talked about at IMIN's conference, is saying mastery to us is about differentiated learning in the classroom. It's about hitting your different learning styles, but it's also very structured for our environment. And can it be? And so it's a good conversation. And so we're collecting data and doing research along these lines of having more direct instruction with that. And one of the problems we faced is basically saying that we have to scaffold our instruction with these tier 2 interventions we talked about. The other thing is that the students we get at our school are usually behind credits. Sometimes significantly, 20, 30 credits behind. So one of the functions of our school has to be to catch students up to recover credit. In so doing, we've decided basically to take the summer school model, 6 weeks, where you can take up to 3 classes, and duplicate that through the school year. So we have 6 6-week blocks. And in that, they can accelerate and earn credit. Each class is essentially longer following like you would a summer school program. So it is accelerated to be able to target students to try to graduate students on time that come with all types of credit deficits. Also, I wanted to talk about Middleton Academy and Middleton High School's enhanced partnership. I really have to give a huge thanks to Brian, all the administrative staff at the high school, counselors, and our directors of the district, as well as our superintendent, for allowing us to be a bigger participant in that community. There's a bus today that took 25 of our students up to the high school to participate in the Veterans Day program. It's not feasible for us to have those big assemblies when we have 100 students. So to be able to participate side by side in all those activities, now welcoming the high school has been and how much Mr. Roth has been in allowing us to be part of everything. We're doing a combined graduation where we got feedback from our students that said, you know, we go to graduation, there's 10 of us. And this is a smaller audience and we feel strange and we don't want this. And so having a Middleton graduation, and that's possible because of the administration right now at the high school. Combined mascots and colors that I talked about. And qualifying students are now able to take electives through the high school, which I wish had happened years ago, but it's currently happening right now. We have several of our students that we released them. We've figured our schedule, so we're advisory to the 7th period up to the high school and take a number of electives. And so that increased partnership has been huge for us. And most of all, thank you for your support. Any questions or? Yes.
How many of your 110 do you foresee graduating and getting diplomas this year?
We're gonna have a record graduating class. Right now, we have 23 students cited for
Awesome.
graduation.
That's great.
So cool.
Some that looked like they were 50 or seniors, but with that late start, we created a 0 hour. And so we're at capacity right now with a 0 hour. We have 26 students that come every morning to do extra credit in addition to the acceleration, because they didn't want to come back for a 5th year of high school. Nor do we want them to come back for a 5th year of high school.
It's awesome, Glenn. You've done a lot of great things.
It's really neat that you've been able to work with the high school. I think that's incredible for your students. Your electives, are most of them, or what kind of electives are they taking? Is it CTE? Is it just?
It's all type. We have students we have a student that was on the football team that went up for the strength and conditioning as part of being on that program. We have students that choir. We have students that go up because they were taking a specific course they loved and it made sense in their schedule. And so they just stay in all semester. We do kind of like a release time, basically. We have students that attend seminary. We have students that release for all sorts of reasons. After Christmas, we're working on having a bus be able to take even more significant that we can get them involved in CTE programs. What primary our population, we have a lot of students that will go into skilled labor. And so paving some of those ways as well. And the more we can do with it, like the high school's been more than receptive.
So when they are at the academy, if they're just behind by some credits and they recover however many within 6 weeks, do they transfer back into the high school mainstream or do they stay at the academy until graduation?
They have a choice. So I have 2 criteria for transferring back. One is behavior. You have to be demonstrating positive behavior in the classroom. The other is that you're caught up with your credits. We have 2 students after Christmas that will be transferring back to finish their senior year, and they're all caught up on credits. And
Awesome.
we feel good saying, hey, these are students that can keep up now, have that motivation.
So I'll ask the same question. What could you use from the community? Is there volunteer hours? What could you use from our community to help fill the gap? Sounds like the relationship with the high school is really blossomed, but is it help in reading? Is it mentoring? Is it where can our community help? We're a small enough community now where I think I would request this of every principal is start making a list of what you can get from our community. I think the desire is there. I think we need to match that up a little bit. So
Absolutely agree. And one of the things off the top of my head is internship experiences that a lot of our students have never really had the chance to. If you take our population in generalization, but they haven't been involved in team sports. They haven't been involved in a lot of extracurricular type things. So outside of just the school, being able to have mentors in the community, even more so internship experiences. That saying, hey, we have these students graduating. What are they doing after they graduate? Are they going to wander you see some of them. I taught at the academy for years. I see some of the past students walking around on the street in the middle of the day. But are they going to have opportunities? Are they going to be able to segue from graduation into opportunities for high skilled labor or great careers or military or whatever it may be? Our first goal is to graduate, but then I think even more important is how green is the pasture on the other side? What opportunities they have there? Anything we can do as a community with internships helps pave that way and gives them connections and opportunities they would not have had otherwise. It's huge.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Appreciate it. That concludes our reports for tonight. Moving into item 6, our action items. At this time, I would ask Dr. Reberry to introduce Gina, our new clerk of the board.
All right, we announced last time that we were able to interview and hire a new clerk of the board. So this is Gina Corrigan, and she has been here 1 week with us now. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So at this time, I'd ask for a motion to appoint new clerk of the board.
I move that we appoint Gina as a new clerk of the board.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Welcome. Thank you. And the second item on our action items is the 2018-19 annual audit, which we heard Mr. Coleman give to us earlier. Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve 6B 2018-19 annual audit.
Second that?
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion before we vote?
I would just like some follow-up, I think, sit down with Cheryl and go over some of those, our general fund balance moving forward for the remainder of this year, this fiscal year, to make sure that we're doing the best we can to be.
Looks like that.
Yeah.
Do you think we could get like a monthly something update, how we're doing on that, Cheryl? I know that adds to your plate too, but just to kind of give us a rundown and maybe break it down as to where you think that we're seeing the most deficit would be
Would you guys
helpful.
be interested in a work session prior to the meeting?
Yeah.
To get started?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed? So moved. All right, at this time, I would invite the seniors to come forward and we can sign your agendas.
Any of us can sign.
Any of
Yep.
us.
So.
Oh, good.
Sorry. Finley, when this is done.
You're welcome.
The plane had a dent in it.
Signed it for one.
For you. That's all right.
Yep, you're welcome.
No, you're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you signed.
Thank you. You betcha.
Yeah, because, so the reason, I mean, like, this makes sense. $5 million.
One time, just
Where we
all
should
three.
have $5 million bond.
All three, are you turning them for? Yeah.
Is there a reason you just can't?
Or are you turning them then for somebody else?
Yeah, some of them,
Because what-
Are they here?
There's some.
some of them are on the way, some of the bonds are like, that's just before
Yeah.
facility. So it depends on. what-
Where we're deficit.
Oh, they have to be
Yeah.
here, yeah,
Yeah.
and so they have to be
Yeah,
here.
that's what I wanted to know.
Yep.
If we have funds that.
Oh, I think that's.
That at least
All right.
2-month window that everyone else is out of what you recommend. That's what, that's something.
I think we better slow
All right.
down.
You ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, at this time, that concludes our action items, and we'll move into our executive session.
Would you like me to read it?
Please.
I make a motion to go into executive session in accordance with Idaho Code 74-206B and F. B, to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student. To communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated.
All right, we'll go in by roll call vote.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
trustee McConkey,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Blackwell,
Yes.
trustee Ruth.
Yes. All right, at this time, we are in executive session. I would ask everyone to step out for a minute, a few minutes, and there is a couple people who are invited to stay in. You know who you are, but, oh, okay. Sarah?
Yeah, ice water, so that.
All right, at this time, we'll go back into regular session. We'll come out as we went in by roll call vote.
I was like,
Trustee Moore?
feels different.
Yes.
Trustee McConkey?
Yes.
Trustee Adams?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwell?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes. All right. We have concluded our executive session. We have no action resulting from the executive session. So we'll move on to number 9, hearing of signed-in visitors. We do have one, Mr. Dave Morgan. If you'd like to come to the podium, you have 3 minutes.
Dr. Reberry, members of the board, just appreciate your time tonight. I just want to say thank you for the security measures that you put in these schools. I have several kids in the schools, and it's been a big deal for me since the situation of the Heights. I was just very concerned at that time, made several phone calls at that point, and I appreciate the time and effort that you all must have put into that to get that taken care of. I know it can be frustrating for some people, put their driver's license in and try to get into a school, but I tell you what, I just feel like it's one of the things that we needed to have done, and it's really secured my kids, at least I feel anyway at this point, so I really appreciate that. That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
You still got another couple minutes there. All right.
Big thank you to Mike on that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mike was the driving force behind that.
Okay. Having no further visitors signed in to speak, we will move to adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second it. Sorry, Derek.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. And our November meeting is concluded. Thank you.
Cheryl, do you want me to shut down or do you want us to just close the lid? Oh, you're what you were.
We got 3 minutes, so get up and.